Do you know why you're an atheist? Many people would say it's because there's no proof of God's existence, but that's probably not the real reason. It's more likely because of how science has been framed, not what science has actually discovered. So let's take a brief journey through the history of science and religion to see where those roads became tangled, or in this case, artificially separated. First, let me be clear. This is not an attack on atheism. This is about order, ethics, and intentionality, and whether the tools we use are even capable of answering those questions. Comment below. Do you believe that science has all the answers to reality? Do you believe in the supernatural world? Now, consider this illustration. If I collected rock samples and said, "See, these rocks prove God exists," you'd rightly call that dishonest. But why? Because rocks, by their nature, can't prove or disprove God. No amount of collecting material samples can tell us anything about the existence of a non-material cause. And that's the core issue. Science is a powerful method for investigating natural phenomena. But many materialists have come to believe that this method can also determine whether the supernatural is even possible. That belief isn't scientific, it's philosophical. Still, as an honest believer, I won't say it has no merit. As science successfully debunked ancient explanations, like Zeus causing thunder and lightning, it became tempting to assume that all claims of supernatural agency were equally false and simply waiting to be disproven. And that assumption quietly changed everything. To understand how we got here, we first need to understand what science actually is. Science is not a worldview. It is not a belief system. It is a method. So why has science become synonymous with an ideology like atheism? At its core, the scientific method is a disciplined process: observation, hypothesis, experimentation, and repeatability. It was designed to investigate regular, measurable patterns in the natural world. And when it stays within that lane, it is extraordinarily successful. What's often forgotten is who developed this method and why. The early architects of modern science were not trying to eliminate God from reality. Quite the opposite. Many of them believed the universe was intelligible because it was created by a rational mind. They expected order, consistency, and discoverable laws because they believed nature reflected intentional design. In other words, science was born from the conviction that the universe made sense. But over time, something subtle happened. As scientific explanations replaced ancient mythological ones, lightning no longer required Zeus, disease no longer required demons, confidence in the method grew, and rightly so. Science earned trust by delivering real results. The problem wasn't discovery. The problem was scope creep. Gradually, a powerful assumption slipped in unnoticed, that if science couldn't detect something, then that something likely didn't exist. And that's where science quietly stopped being a method and started being treated as an ideological filter. Not a tool to investigate reality, but a gatekeeper that decides what counts as real. This shift matters because the scientific method, by definition, is limited to the material world. It can tell us how processes work, it can map mechanisms, it can identify patterns, but it cannot tell us why anything exists at all, or whether something beyond nature is responsible for nature itself. Take DNA as an example. DNA is one of the most astonishing discoveries in human history. A coded information system more complex than anything humans have ever engineered. Science can analyze it, sequence it, manipulate it, and even edit it. But DNA itself says nothing about its ultimate cause. Discovering how a message works does not explain who wrote it or whether a mind was involved at all. That question lies outside the reach of the method. And pretending otherwise isn't science, it's philosophy wearing a lab coat. Yet today, scientists have become some of the most influential figures in society. And again, this didn't happen by accident. When the world faces crises, pandemics, environmental threats, technological uncertainty, we look to scientists for answers, and in many cases they deliver. Vaccines, treatments, models, solutions. Lives are saved. But here's the psychological shift that follows. When people see science provide answers that urgent problems, they begin to assume science either has or eventually will have answers to all questions, including questions it was never designed to answer. That's where the confusion sets in, because solving a disease does not grant authority over metaphysics. Explaining climate patterns does not determine whether purpose exists. Mapping the brain does not disprove the soul. Yet both the public and many scientists themselves often fail to recognize where the method ends and philosophy begins. And when those limits are ignored, science stops being a search for truth and becomes an enforcer of assumptions. This is where atheism often enters, not as a conclusion discovered by science, but as a default position smuggled in under the authority of science. The claim becomes, if science can't detect God, then belief in God is irrational. But that claim isn't scientific, it's an ideological decision about what kinds of explanations are allowed before the investigation even begins. That's why independent thinking matters now more than ever. Not rejecting science, but understanding it. Not distrusting experts, but recognizing their domain. Not abandoning reason, but refusing to outsource it. Independent research means asking questions beyond headlines. It means distinguishing data from interpretation, method from metaphysics, discovery from worldview. It means recognizing that science is an incredible flashlight, but not the sun itself. And when we mistake the flashlight for the source of all light, we don't become more rational, we become less aware of what we're excluding. This isn't about choosing faith over science, it's about refusing to let ideology masquerade as neutrality. So this is why you're an atheist, because you're looking for proof of God from a place where it couldn't possibly come from. If these questions resonate with you, if you've ever wondered whether atheism truly followed from science or whether something deeper shaped that conclusion, then I explore this journey in detail in my book, Deconstructing Agnosticism. My journey to faith through the maze of science, philosophy, and theology. It's not a sermon, it's the results of years of truth-seeking and research because I genuinely wanted to help people like myself find the answers they are searching for. If you value independent thinking, I think you'll find it worth your time.